Welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory.
Hi.
Hello.
Now, before we get into this episode, I thought it's really important that I state outright, just very much at the beginning of this episode.
Yes.
This is the no homo episode.
No homo. Absolutely. 100% no homo, just bros.
Just bros. There's only bros here. So if you came here for an in-depth analysis of the bisexuality of Dean Winchester, I'm sorry to tell you, but this is a bros only episode.
we're here to tell you what women actually want in a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. This episode.
My friend. If there was ever a thesis to be written about Dean's bisexuality, this would be the number one reference, right?
Yeah. Yes. This would be your launching pad for sure.
Yeah.
Like you would look at this episode and then you'd sort of maybe backtrack a little bit to some of the early ones and then go forward quite a lot and see all of the indications, shall we say?
Subtext.
Subtext.
Is this episode even subtext? Is it even subtext?
To some people it will be, but it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
That is plain text right there.
It's great. I feel like someone could have been watching Supernatural through a certain lens. You get to this episode and you're like, I was right. Get on the internet. Guys, I was right. Yeah.
I mean, for an entire episode, yes. But I was just thinking about with Ash and Dean. That was maybe like the first inkling, but they weren't together for very long. Mm-hmm. But this is like I said, and that could be subtext. This, no. This is just out there for the world to see.
Right, yeah, you're definitely right. There have been hints and tips leading up to this episode, but this is,
completely speechless.
I'm speechless. This episode was it's so ridiculous.
It is, and so Catherine Humphries wrote this one.
Yeah. I have questions for this lady.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
She does episodes, I feel, that I don't know. She's quite a funny writer, I think. She writes some funny moments. She seems to get the ones that are about the plot but not about the plot. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you think about Dead Man's Blood, it's plotty, but it's not quite the main plot, but it is the main plot. And The Usual Suspects as well, that's very much focused on the B plot bit of it. Metamorphosis again is it's there but it's not.
She's very good at writing arguments.
Yes, and there is a big argument in this episode. So,
yeah.
And that's why they like the conflict. I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say about this because who's the guy who plays the FBI agent? Is he in True Blood? I feel like he's in True Blood.
Yes. That's where I recognized him from. Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely where I know him from. So he stayed in the supernatural genre after this. Yeah.
Well, he started True Blood in 2008, so...
Oh, he was on it before this. Okay. Okay, so I think let's get into this because there's a lot to be said here. Yeah. And I don't even know where to start. So let's start at the beginning.
This episode starts with Cass.
This should have been a first indication.
Saying that Sam is going down a dangerous road and if you don't stop him, I will. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of the psychic stuff and Sam and Ruby's relationship.
There's a lot of the conflict, right? Of Dean and Sam fighting and stuff. So it just continues into this episode.
Mm-hmm. And so then we are inside a kitchen.
Yeah.
And a woman is just at her counter beating her meat.
It's the first thing I thought when I watched this. I was like, and they're already making some kind of sex joke.
I mean, the episode is called Sex and Violence, so during this scene, so she's in the kitchen beating her meat with a tenderizer.
Yeah.
And you see like a man exit a car and you can see her through the window.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I was like, I am so glad my kitchen's at the back of my house, because I don't think I could handle having my kitchen like window where people can just see in.
Oh no. Why have these people never heard of... Oh, they're called in England net curtains. I don't know what they call them in America. You know, they're like the thin curtain that you get so you can see out but people can't see into your house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone should have those.
Everyone should have those.
Yes.
So it's bad. It made me uncomfortable, and I guess that's the whole point.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
The man comes in, it's clearly her husband, and they get into some, like a kind of an argument. Again, it made me really uncomfortable because it seemed very like doing some armchair psychology, but it appeared very abusive, right?
Yeah.
Like the wife was like, hey, you know, your boss is riding you late, like why are you very dismissive, and just like, then she says that, you know, we got a party we can go to this weekend, and he gets really angry at that, and he's like, well, why did you do that? You know, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
She says, what, I thought you liked Gary. He says, yeah, but that doesn't mean I want to waste my Saturday night with him. So it's like, that's kind of weird. There's some very interesting shots in this. She's kind of half in the frame, but then most of it's like a lampshade. What she's turning on the light, and you see him very slowly approach, and then takes the tenderizer and then kills her with it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it seems like from her initial reactions that this wasn't like normal that they would argue and stuff. I feel like she seemed quite surprised by it. So yeah, there's something supernatural going on, but it's, yeah, you're right, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I guess it's supposed to be. They got the supernatural blood splattering.
They did, yep, across their wedding picture.
Aww. So yeah, title card from a blood splatter, pretty standard supernatural stuff, and we see Dean sleeping in a motel room. So where's Dean sleeping?
Yeah.
Sam is in another room, like talking, and then something wakes Dean up, and he looks and sees that Sam's not in his bed, and he kind of watches him have a conversation, but Sam can't see him. It's really funny because as Sam kind of finishes up this conversation on his phone, like Dean pretends to be asleep again, like a little kid. And then when Sam comes in, he wakes Dean up. He says, "Up and at 'em, kiddo," which again, cute.
Yes.
And Dean again, like, is acting, like rubbing his eyes, like, "Oh, what's going on? I'm so sleepy.
I just woke up. Yeah. Oh no."
And then, you know, Dean asks what Sam was doing up, and he's like, "No, I was just in the bathroom." So Dean knows he's lying because he saw him on the phone. Oh, it's like a big conspiracy theory. But Sam's found a job. It's in Bedford, Iowa, and it was the guy who killed his wife, and there have been 2 other murders within quite a short amount of time. All of them seemed happy, no prior like convictions or anything. And Sam compares it to The Shining, which is, yeah, about right, I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So they decide to go. They cut to them interviewing this guy in the prison, and they're pretending to be lawyers.
Is it lawyers or FBI agents?
I think here they're pretending to be lawyers. The guy's like, "Why do they keep sending you? I don't need a lawyer." They kind of say like, we don't really want to represent you. We just want to know what happens. And they quiz this guy about why he did it, and he seems regretful, but like almost like not regretful enough. I felt. It was weird, right? Like if he was under the influence of something, I feel like he'd be like, "I don't know why I did it," like really distressed. But he's just sort of resigned to the fact he killed his... I guess people have different reactions to things happening, but I don't know. So they're asking him like the basic questions. Like Dean's like, "Do you think something possessed you? Did something possess you to do this?" And this guy's like, he doesn't know why he did it, but he does seem a little bit cagey. And eventually, I think Sam pulls out, or Dean pulls out, some papers that have his financial records on, and it shows that he's been charged to like a shady company called M&C Entertainment, which apparently is how like strip clubs would come up on your credit card. And
Dean would know this.
Dean would know this. And the guy's being quite evasive still, but then eventually he drops in that he met this woman whose name was Jasmine, and he's like, I don't know why it happened. Like I don't normally go to like strip bars. It's normally like I was just there for a bachelorette party, but I met her. His wife didn't find out, so that wasn't the motive. But basically, this woman convinced him to kill her. She was like, they'd be together forever, I think is the phrasing. And then once he had killed his wife, she just disappeared and he never saw her again. Sam's like, well, why didn't you tell all this to the cops? Like, this is a bit suspicious. And this is where he seems the most regretful because he's like, well, she didn't do it. I did it. And like, yeah, I've deserved to be punished for this. So, I mean, it's pretty sad. This is basically like his guy's life has been destroyed. And now we know he kind of had no control over his actions. So it's pretty tragic, I guess. The next scene, they're pretending to be feds this time. Same suits, different badges.
Summed up Supernatural.
Yeah, exactly. We see a lady, she's wearing a white lab coat, so she's clearly a doctor.
Of course.
Of course she is. Her name is Cara Roberts, and she's sort of taking tablets from a bottle, so she's displaying all the TV signs of a hangover.
Yes.
When I have a hangover, I'm just like, no, you can't. No, there's no way I could go into work. I don't drink that much that it's that like I would end up getting a hangover very often. But when I do, it's bad. It's bad news, man.
I haven't gone drinking like that in a long time, so I can't say for certain. And when I have, it's when I've been on like holiday, so
yeah,
I wouldn't have to go to work anyway.
It's when I'm young and dumb, and
yeah.
It's fine. So Sam comes into her office.
Rough night?
Fun night. Rough morning.
Oh, the flirting has begun.
The flirting has begun.
Very, very strong vibes between Sam and Cara from like the moment that he walks into the office. She like clocks him as like, yes.
You are my type.
Yeah. And like Sam's into it, to be fair to him. Yeah.
We always knew he liked the older lady.
He does. Sam likes the MILF. I mean, I'm not saying this lady is a MILF, but she's definitely older than him.
She's a doctor who's been married and had to get divorced.
True. Yeah. So she's had that whole life experience thing.
I think the earliest you can become a doctor is in like your late 20s.
Yeah, it's like 7 years. So Sam introduces himself as Agent Styles, and when I first heard it, because he's just so about so much in the media at the moment, I was like, is this a Harry Styles reference? And then I remembered the year.
I did the same kind of thing, and I was like, subconsciously, when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
And then Dean is Dean Murdoch. So I think Styles and Murdoch, I'm guessing it's some kind of like TV cop show or something, but it's from the 60s or whatever. I'm thinking like Starsky Hutch and Hutch kind of style.
Yeah, I'm probably same kind of thing, like Dukes of Hazzard and all that kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Same era.
It makes sense for them. They are very much like Dukes of Hazzard, kind of.
Just less racist.
Yeah.
Not driving around with just a Confederate flag, just painted on the roof.
To be fair to me, I've never watched Starsky and Hutch. I think I've seen the Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson version.
And I think they still had
Do they still have it in that movie?
Yeah. We're getting so sidetracked, but I want to have a look.
That's really bad. How did they get away with that?
Because it's the Dukes of Hazzard, so...
Yeah, but like you'd think, oh, we're going to remake this. Maybe let's take some of the problematic things out of it. Anyway, he introduced himself as working from the sheriff's department. Well, Sam says, do you work for the sheriff's department? And Cara says, like, yeah, I kind of do a bit of everything because it's a small town. Because, she just does the doctoring of everything.
Yeah.
And Sam asks about the case, about the 3 guys. And because she handled their workups and she also did the autopsies on their victims. And she didn't really find anything at all. But then when Sam asks again about the husband, she asks to see his badge. So It's like, oh, there's something suspicious going on. And he actually like does get it out and like holds it up for quite a long time. So they must have had better badges than they have previously. I mean, that's thanks to Bobby, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. But Bobby's the one in charge of their IDs now. Instead of Dean just going to a copier's shop.
Yeah, making like, was it bikini inspector badges or whatever? Oh my gosh. And it turns out that in these guys' blood, they had very high oxytocin levels, and she explains kind of what that is.
Sam has a really hard time with this, like,
you're right,
because it's later on in the show that he can't say it, and I wonder if there was like some sort of like behind the scenes thing where he couldn't say it, so they were just like, whatever, like.
I feel like Sam wouldn't have any problem with knowing how to say oxytocin.
You would think so. Something that he just feels uncomfortable saying? I don't know.
Maybe there's a reason he didn't do a science degree.
Yeah, maybe.
But you think with all that Latin, there's a lot of Latin in law, right? So
yes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Latin that he does. He can recite the entire exorcism.
Good point. I never really tied the Latin thing to his like law degree, demon exorcism. But yeah, Sam definitely can speak Latin. So why is he having a problem with oxytocin? Oxytocin, I think, is derivative of Latin. It would make sense to me that it is. But they got most of this right. Most of it. Yes, oxytocin is important during childbirth. It's also like just the same hormone that you like eating chocolate can raise your oxytocin levels, so that's why that tastes kind of nice to some people, or like getting a hug. I think a better description of it than the love hormone is more like the hug hormone, because like, you know, it's like
this episode is not called Hugs and Violence, it's called Sex and Violence.
But oxytocin's not the only like hormone involved in falling in love with people. There's like dopamine and stuff as well. So I feel like oxytocin's very overblown sometimes by media scientists. That's what I'm going to call them.
So I wonder if that's like, because I feel like dopamine is a thing that's being used now, but maybe in 2008-9 when this came out, oxytocin was the one.
Yeah, I think like, so.
The writers found out about it and were like, "Oh, let's just use it all the time now."
Yeah. But yeah, yeah. She says like, "Oh yeah, it's how you feel when you first fall in love, like weak at the knees, tattoo on your chest thing." Not touching that one. Oxytocin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that now. Okay.
She says,
of course, it eventually fades, and then you're stuck with every relationship ever. That and the painful regimen of tattoo removal.
I like the tattoo reference. That's
Yes.
See, you could read that a few different ways. I like to read it in the rib etching kind of way. But yeah, can't get that removed.
Nope.
Sam and Cara kind of like, they have a little flirty smile at each other, like, oh, could this be an increase in our oxytocin?
Our eyes locked and our brains emitted hormones.
Exactly. And then Dean comes in and he's like, what I missed.
Ruins the moment.
It totally ruins it. He introduces himself as Murdoch and also starts flirting with Cara because he's like,
these agents sound so formal. You can call me Dean.
Dr. Roberts.
She's not into Dean. She likes
Not
her men
at
tall.
Tall and young.
Oh yeah, that's true. And floppy haired.
Yes.
So yeah, she turns back to Sam and is like, oh, can I help you with anything else? And he's like, oh, okay, one more thing. And he has to ask again, you're right, about the chemical like oxytocin, and ask what would cause those kinds of high levels. And she's like, nothing that I've ever seen. I mean, there is a synthetic version of oxytocin. Like you can just like, they give it to people to induce childbirth.
I'm pretty sure if they can name the chemical in a like a hormone, pretty sure they have synthetic versions of it.
Yeah, usually some way to manipulate it. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, there's definitely a synthetic. Maybe it's one of those things that you can tell if it's a synthetic version. I don't actually know, but possible. As they leave, Sam and Cara are still smiling at each other. And Sam's like, "Ooh, try a greasy breakfast for your hangover." And she's like, watch it, I'm the only doctor here. It's so bad. The floating's so bad.
I think I cringed from all of their interactions, and it's not even that bad really, but it's just like, I don't know.
It seems quite forced, but I think that's on purpose because they do try to implicate her in the case. So I think that's why it feels like a bit. But no, Sam's just like that. He doesn't really know how to flirt with women, I feel.
That is actually 100% accurate. Yeah, he doesn't know how to flirt with women. It's just like, because we don't know what it was like between him and Jessica, obviously, because backstory, what's that?
I feel she took pity on his awkward stumbling about, and that seems to have been the pattern with the other women that he's met in the series so far. Aside
from Ruby, because Ruby has an alternative motive.
Yeah, but she very much takes the lead in that relationship. Actually, to be fair, again, this is just my headcanon. Mm-hmm. Most of the women that Sam sleeps with seem to be like, I'm choosing this one. The kind of socially awkward one. I'm going to flirt with that one. And then kind of go for it. So maybe he just likes that in a lady who kind of takes charge.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know why I'm theorising on this. I don't like it. Let's move on. So, as they walk out the office, Dean says, you totally C-blocked me. And I realise it's because he's not allowed to say the word cock on the CW.
Yep, that would be it. We'll say it for you, Dean. I love the fact that he goes in so confident and being like, yes, this lady doctor wants me. He's like, no, she really just, she referred to herself as Dr. Roberts. Like, there was no first name introduction. Like, no. Keep dreaming there, love.
Yeah, the overconfidence is just like, Dean thinks he's God's gift to women in this episode, especially for some reason.
And then in this episode, a man falls in love with him.
Look. It's all about fronts.
Yes.
Okay, we're getting there. So Sam and Dean leave, and they're saying that the other two husbands who are also implicated also spent a ton of money at a strip club called the Honey Wagon, which I don't like the name of that. And they also had affairs with like strippers there, but it was like a different person each time. So they all described them though the exact same way.
Perfect and everything that they wanted.
Yeah, at least old Dream Barber convinced them to murder their wives.
There's that.
You know, it's almost like they were under some kind of love spell.
Sure seems that way.
I just want you to remember there's a few conversations that we have before we meet the monster of the week that you just need to hold in your mind during this episode. So again, perfect. Everything they wanted. Love spell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were more later. Dean is super hyped.
You seem pretty cheery.
Strippers, Sammy. Strippers.
He's very excited. Because every other time they thought that it was going to be strippers, it wasn't strippers. And this time...
It is.
It is.
The one thing I will say, for him being so excited about it being at a strip club, he completely ignores them in the next scene. Apart from, like, he gets a little bit distracted. But after that, he's just very much, like, focused.
But I mean, you know, I think anyone who's ever watched a lady take off her clothes on stage, I mean, it's difficult not to be distracted.
Of course. I'm not saying that, but like, you know, he's so excited at this point.
That's true.
But that excitement doesn't actually really carry through.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's excited because he feels like he should be excited about it.
Yes, the idea of it being a stripper is more exciting than it actually being a stripper.
Yeah. Again, what do people really want? You know, what do they really want? What does Dean really want? Anyway.
I mean, maybe it's answered in this episode.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So they get to the Honey Wagon, and there's some good music in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes, it's decent. And Dean's talking to the manager and asking about the 3 women that they're trying to find that have been described to him. And this manager's just like not having it.
They're all Disney princesses.
They are Jasmine, Aurora, and Ariel. I didn't notice that in the thing. While I was watching it, I was like, oh no, that's clever. Yeah, and the one later on is also called Belle.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. And the manager is like, do you know how many people I deal with? Like, girls use fake names, like whatever. And, you know, he doesn't have any paperwork or anything. This guy is actually running quite a dodgy establishment. There should be some kind of paper trail.
There should be.
He's probably not paying his employees properly, is what he's saying, really.
Exactly that.
Yeah. He corrects Dean to calling these ladies strippers to exotic dancers as well. And said they're independent contractors working for cash. So, yeah, this guy is dodgy. And Dean's like, well, you know, 3 of your customers murdered their wives. Don't you think that's weird? And the manager's like, yeah, that's super friggin' weird. But it ain't my problem. Mm-hmm. Okay. And as he leaves, Sam walks over to him. They kind of like catch each other's eye from across the club. And Sam's been talking to Bobby. And he has a theory that this is a siren. And Dean's like Greek myth siren, the Odyssey. And when Sam looks at him like, what? He's like, I read.
But like the Odyssey?
I mean, even I haven't read the Odyssey. Like, it's just it seems hard.
There's certain books you just look at, like Moby Dick is another one. You just look at it and you're just like, no.
Yeah, no. Dean probably has read the Odyssey because boredom, but also like, I don't know. Is it Jason the Argonauts? That's a good film with the like spooky, scary skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember that one scene from Jason the Argonauts with the like stop motion skeletons.
Yeah.
I feel like Dean would
that like terrified everybody when it came out.
Yeah. I don't know. No, but it would. The Odyssey is Odysseus, though, right? Oh my gosh! Don't test me on my Greek mythology. I should know this. Maybe also we're going back to Trojan War, Achilles and Patroclus. So look, it all comes back to being very no homo. Just connect those dots wildly connect them. Sam's like, oh yeah, the siren's not actually a myth, more of a beautiful creature that preys on men, enticing them with their siren song. And Dean's like, welcome to the jungle or cherry pie. I mean, for Dean, that's kind of true. Sam says that their song is more of a metaphor, like they're cool, they're allure. And Dean's like, they shake their thing and guys zombie out. And Sam's like, yeah, basically. And it explains like what sirens were. They used to like live on islands, lure sailors to their death, yada, yada, yada. What's interesting here is like in the siren myth, they talk about like putting wax in your ears so you don't hear them. But that's not how sirens work in Supernatural at all. Like they don't rely on their voices.
No, not at all. And also the two don't mesh either because sirens in this context were killing men. Yeah. But actually mostly in this, it's ruining men. So the siren has ruined the men of their lives. Yeah. But they're still alive. Like they killed their wives. So it's kind of like, I wonder if like they're calling it a siren, but it's not actually. It's actually a completely different mythical creature that relies on this method, and it's about being adored. It's almost like a god, right?
Yeah, kind of. See, I was thinking like maybe sirens of old did used to eat the men, right? So you kill them on the rocks, eat them. But now, you know, modern times, no need to eat people anymore because we don't live on a remote island. So just, I don't know, for funsies, let's see how far we can push these guys. I mean, the siren in this episode says it's about like falling in love over and over again. So maybe they're eating the like hormones.
But this siren is just abandoning them.
Yeah.
After the fact.
So it's just for like fits and giggles.
It's for lols.
Yeah. Just for lols.
Lots of love, right? For lots of love.
Lots of love. So Sam's like, if you were a siren in 2009 and I suddenly aged 1,000,000 years when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it was really long ago.
Yeah.
Where would you set up shop? And Dean's like, oh, so whatever floats the guy's boat. Right, this is the conversation. Dean's like, whatever floats the guy's boat, that's what they look like. And Sam's like, yeah, sirens can read minds. They see what you most want, and they can kind of like cloak themselves like an illusion. And Dean's like the same chick, different dream girls. And Sam says probably pretty solitary. There's another bit in this where he says like they're all you ever wanted or whatever.
I think it's there may be a conversation between him and Bobby later on.
Yeah. That's the other one.
That's the other one.
Anyway, they discuss how they're going to kill it, and Sam's like, Bobby's working on it because they don't know. They haven't come across a siren before. Bobby hasn't come across a siren before either, it seems. And Dean's like, well, it could be anyone. And then...
So again, this is like another reason why I'm like, is this really a siren? Because there's no water involved in this episode. They're not near water.
No.
Iowa's in the middle of the country. There's no lakes nearby. Like, what is... why a siren?
Why a siren? Well...
Maybe they couldn't find a mythical creature that's very similar to this.
I don't know. I just feel like Catherine Humphries was trying to tell us something. That's all I'm saying. She's just trying hard.
We have questions.
Getting it past those censors, getting it past the other writers. It's like, no, guys, it'll be fine.
It's a siren.
It's a siren. So we see the camera go to this young man, and he is with a lady called Belle, and we see them leave together. So it's like, oh, the siren's got another victim. This is confirmed because we follow them all the way to his apartment where he's looking after his sick mother. It's very like, I don't know. I think Dean later references Basic Instincts. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of, yeah. And, you know, because she's all like, oh, I love you so much. You know, we could be together forever if only your mother wasn't here. And, like, they have sex at one point, and you see in the mirror that she's actually this, like, monster-looking thing.
I was thinking, this is the first monster-looking thing that we've actually seen in a long time.
Yeah. It reminded me of the first vampire from Buffy.
Yes.
Yeah. With the, like, sunken eyes and, like, yeah, the really, really pale skin. And I would actually say that sirens look more like vampires than vampires do in Supernatural.
Yes.
That means that's such a dumb sentence.
But the funny thing is I completely understand what you mean.
Even with their, like, mouth thing, like the mouth thing that the sirens do, that's kind of more vampy to me. I don't know. And yeah, eventually Belle manages to convince this guy to kill his mother, and he does. And as he does, she just leaves. She like puts her dress back on and like, peace out, man. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you later, ta-ta.
I wish I could get undressed and redressed as smoothly as that lady does. Because that was some skill.
Yeah. I mean, it probably helps that it's easily accessible clothing too.
Yeah, she's got like a zip dress on, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I was just like, yeah, I admire that. That is an actual learned skill that should be appreciated.
Yep. So Dean is doing research, but is being distracted by Sam's phone.
I laughed so hard at this. The expression on his face is so dumb. It's like he's just staring at the phone, like really moodily, like brooding at this mobile phone, like ring.
I need something to be mad at. The phone will be it. Oh, that's funny. So he picks up the phone, and because obviously this is pre-iPhone and all that. Well, they never have iPhones because of contracts and stuff, but pre-smartphones basically. So there's no lock on this phone, so you can just get straight in.
You could still put a pin on your phone, I feel, in 2009.
Yeah, probably. But then it's Sam and Dean, so
yeah, they fully 100% trust each other in all aspects of their life.
Apart from none of them. He goes back through the call log and looks back at about what time he heard the phone call the previous day, I guess. And he rings the number, and it's Ruby on the other end.
Yeah.
And he hangs up the phone and looks upset. He then puts the phone back down, like, just as Sam walks in and tries not to look guilty. How Sam didn't catch on to, like, everything in this episode, I don't know. But here you go. There you go.
I feel like Dean pranks him a lot there with his phone, like changes his ringtone and stuff. So he probably just thought, like,
he has definitely taken a picture of his butt and like put it as the wallpaper, right?
yeah, 100.
Sam lets us know that, you know, he's looked into Lenny Bristol, which I thought was funny, his name's Bristol, that he was definitely a siren victim. He brought home a stripper named Belle a couple of hours ago, then he offed his mother, and then Belle went MIA. So this time, the siren's going after the woman closest to him, not like his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And then Sam's phone rings, and Dean's like, yeah, you forgot your cell phone. And let me give it to you. Like...
This man can't lie.
But then he can, like, really convincingly.
He can't lie about the little things, only the big things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's Bobby on the phone, and Bobby says, have you found her yet? And they obviously have not. Bobby says, well, the lore from a dusty Greek poem, shockingly, it's a little vague. Yeah. I would guess so.
It says you need a bronze dagger covered in the blood of a sailor under the spell of the song.
What the hell does that mean?
You got me?
Which I'm really surprised that they don't know what that means. I feel like that's very clear.
It's so obvious.
I mean, a bronze dagger, okay. You know what a bronze dagger is. Covered in the blood of a sailor under the spell of... It could be anybody under the spell of a siren.
Bobby has to lay it out for them as well, and it's like they're explaining it for the audience, you know, people who are watching this while eating dinner who are like, what?
I guess so, yeah. And he says, we're dealing with 3,000-year-old telephone game here, which I thought was great. Bobby clarifies that the siren spell has nothing to do with the song. It's more likely to be a toxin or a venom. Mm-hmm. And then she gets it into the victim's blood. Sam asks, do you think it's that they infect, or she infects them during sex? And he calls it a supernatural STD, which I feel like there's a lot of those, actually.
Yeah.
It feels so weird to be explaining exactly what the poem said, because he says here, however it happens, once it's done, the siren's got to watch her back. She gets a dose of her own medicine and it kills her. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what you just said in the poem.
You just said it, Bobby.
Do they not do English literature? Is that what it is?
No, there's no... I mean, they kind of know, I feel, that Sam and Dean are not very good at sometimes reading past the obvious.
Yeah, I guess so.
They take things at very face value.
Yeah, that's true.
So we just gotta find a way to juice one of the OJs in jail?
That's such an old reference and also a terrible one. I can't believe they wrote that into a TV show.
I know. And I mean, that tells you what a difference, like, I guess it was 14 years at that point, right?
Yeah.
14, 15 years.
Yeah.
Not that easy. None of those guys are under the spell anymore. Haven't got a clue where you're going to get the blood you need.
I think I might have an idea.
And then it cuts to the hospital, and Sam and Dean both go, and she says, Agent Styles, can't keep away, huh? He says, actually, we're here on business about the blood samples. The ones high with, oxytocin. It's like, what's wrong with saying oxytocin? I don't...
It's like a dirty word that he doesn't want to say.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Oxytocin.
Whoa.
And as they're sort of going back and forth and like getting these blood samples, because the doctor's reluctant to give them to them, another guy comes up and like says, hey, we're a little busy here. And he says, so am I, pal. And they both show their FBI badges.
So dumb.
So the new guy introduces himself as Nick Monroe. They introduce themselves as Sam Styles and Dean Murdoch. They have it's very rapid, like, interrogation of each other.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Nick Monroe, what's yours?
I'm Special Agent Sam Styles. This is my partner, Dean Murdoch. What office you from?
Omaha, Violent Crimes Unit. My SAC sent me down here to see about the murders.
And then Sam's just like, you know what? Just call our AD, which is assistant director, and he'll sort things out. And so he does that, and we hear director Kaiser Sose. I'm thinking.
Probably, yeah.
And it's Bobby. Bobby's just there making himself some breakfast.
In a kiss the cook apron. Oh,
Yeah.
Bobby!
I just love it. He's very authoritative, and I love this for them, like having Bobby just be like this older man with a, authority.
The thing is as well, like when you watch later seasons, they learned this from Bobby because Dean has phones, like masking taped up with different things that say like FBI and stuff on. So, it makes me a little bit sad too.
Yeah, because he when he puts the phone down, he's got a whole row of different phones. One says Fed, Marshall, FBI, and CIA, and others.
Yeah.
And he says those idiots. So we come back to the group in the hospital, and Monroe apologizes. Monroe says, well, I was about to run Perp's blood work. And Steph says, we've already done that. It's a dead end. And then Monroe says, get this.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh.
He says, I think I found something that connects all the murders. So he goes over their entire theory.
Yeah.
That they're strippers from the same club. And Dean's like, you don't say. Monroe suggests that they go to the strip club to like check it out. Dean says, we're kind of lone wolves. It had very much Ghost Facer vibes.
It really did. Two guys stood together saying, no, we're lone wolves. It's like, you're together. How are you a lone wolf?
I don't know, but here we are. But Sam's like, no, actually, this is a good idea. And he pulls Dean aside and he says, you got to stay with him, keep him out of the way so that like Sam can get the blood samples.
And get busy.
Yes.
Sorry.
Dean's like, well, what am I supposed to do with him? And he says, just take him to the strip club, keep an eye out for the siren, just focus on the naked girls. You'll forget he's even there.
Oh, but that doesn't happen though, does it?
No, not even close. Not even close. And Dean says, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for the girls.
Sure, Dean. I'm just, like, everything I say to him is like, sure, Dean. I just feel like if I met this man in real life, I'd just be so patronising towards him. Everything he says is just like, okay, honey. Like, you keep thinking that about yourself. It's okay. You can do
When
this.
you come to terms with it, come see me.
Yeah.
So Dean and Nick go outside, and Nick notices that it's an Impala and like can name some of the stats, and Dean's very impressed. They drive off. They drive off onto greener pastures. Back in the hospital, Sam's trying to convince Kara about giving the blood samples over. She's really wanting to know why he wants to run the tests. So it was during this, I was like, why are they making this comparison?
Yeah.
Why? What is it? Why is this being written in TV right now that these are the two comparisons that we have? So not only do we have a Ruby and Sam situation, we have a Dean and Cass situation. Now we have a Sam and Kara situation, and we have a Dean and Nick situation. Why is this happening? And people are like, Dean's always been straight, no homo.
No, you're forgetting. We're the crazy ones.
Oh, that's right.
We're reading too much into it.
That.
Yeah. The fact that the parallel relationships that Dean has is with men means nothing, Annabelle.
You're right. I am so sorry that I'm reading way too much into this.
If I want to put on my sensible hat, I say sensible hat. My sensible hat is the reading that I'm already doing into this. If I want to put my no homo hat on, I'm going to get it out, dust it off, It smells disgusting.
Ooh, yeah, I bet.
What this is the old switcheroo. So like they weren't expecting. They were like, oh, it's going to be a big twist. We're doing a twist. And so no one will see it coming because we've been referring to the siren in female pronouns, and Kara and Sam are way into each other to like, for people who have met this quickly. But I mean, that happens with Sam. He gets into women way too quick sometimes. So yeah, I can see what they were doing to make this no homo, and yet it is there.
And yeah, it is there. Yeah. And I mean, the parallels got stronger and stronger, like from here. And it's just like in this episode, I mean.
You want this blood because...
We'd like to run some tests.
You know, I run every test there is. It's my job. Notice the lab coat.
Sam says, well, we have a specialist. And when she goes to get the samples, which... Do you have any thoughts on how the samples are stored?
So many.
Okay, I figured. I was like, Amy's going to say something about this because this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right.
The tubes are right. If you just left blood in a fridge like that, it would just coagulate. And maybe they added some anticoagulant to it, but it needs to be moving. Yeah, I don't know. There is what's the funniest thing to me is that her samples. First of all, she has hardly any. Like, no one, no scientist I know has that few samples that they can just go to their mini bar and be like, ooh, some are missing.
You got to think, like, for every test that they have to run, they need a separate vial most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. This just seems like too convenient. And the fact that they're like missing off the rack in like a really convenient little like square is just so funny to me. It's so funny. But yeah, it's very tight. Why has she got blood samples in her office? Why are they not in the lab? There's no many questions. What's she doing with them in
Yeah, none of this makes sense.
None of this makes
like,
sense.
why is she the one running the tests too? I know it's like a small town and like there's not much around, but like surely you would still have to send it off to a actual lab.
Yeah.
To do.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know about hospitals here, but maybe there's like hospitals with. But then I don't know.
Usually hospitals have labs in them. That's usually the thing. So yeah, but like they're in her office. That's not right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like this was quite a cheap episode because literally there's 3 locations. There's motel, hospital, strip club. They did a little bit outside.
Yeah.
And a little bit Bobby's house. But yeah, very kind of like not very location heavy. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah. Yeah, more likely. So we're then in the strip club and Dean and Nick are taking shots. And for some reason, they're just going back and forth on like naming song titles and then who wrote them.
It's all Led Zeppelin songs. It's because they couldn't put any Led Zeppelin songs in Supernatural. So they're establishing here that Dean's a big Zeppelin fan without ever having to listen to their music. They do this a lot in TV shows, I feel, where they're like trying to show that someone has a common interest. So they're like trading facts about that thing. I have never seen anybody in real life have a conversation like this.
No. So the only other time that I remember this happening was in Doctor Strange, the first movie.
Yeah.
But that made sense because he was being tested on it.
Right.
Right? The surgery assistant was the one who was just doing that. Like, because they find like they were testing Doctor Strange's knowledge. But like surely you would go into it like the way that we talk about this show. Like we'd go into the lore of each of these records, right. Surely.
Not just like you would
yeah. Just naming a title and being like, it's like me saying, I don't know, Terrible Lie, and then you coming back and saying 9 Inch Nails 1994 or whatever.
That's
or
so
1980.
Funny. You can't see it, but I'm wearing a 9 Inch Nails t-shirt.
That's amazing.
It's hidden, but I am. Yeah, maybe this is... Okay, no. I have had conversations like this when people were trying to gatekeep fan stuff from me. Maybe this is how they think men have conversations about things they like, that it is a test.
Maybe.
So maybe I wasn't being gatekeepered. I wasn't being gatekeepered. I wasn't being gatekept. Maybe they were just trying to be friends. I don't think that's true. If you're asking someone at a Star Trek convention who's dressed in a Star Trek uniform facts about Star Trek to prove they like it, I feel like that's still gatekeeping.
Yeah, that is the description. If you looked up gatekeeping, that is exactly what would show up.
It'd be me and that dude who tried to engage me in conversation. There'd be a picture of us there. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's a weird interaction, and they're very into it too. I don't know. Maybe they're just reveling in each other's knowledge of Led Zeppelin. But it could have been such a different conversation. It could have been like, oh, Zeppelin 4, man. Like, that's my favorite. Like, I would listen to this all the time, and like, I would make mixtapes.
Maybe that's too on the nose.
Like, are you saying that mixtapes are really on the nose as a romantic gesture, Annabelle?
Not at all. I don't know. Putting the time and effort into making it, and I'm talking a mixed tape, not a mixed CD.
No.
A tape where you have to go and get the individual records or CDs or sometimes the radio, and you would have to let it play and hit and
As someone who's made mixtapes, I'm going into this now. This is happening. The fact is, you have to listen to that song, and while you listen to that song, you think about the person that you're making that mixtape for.
Exactly.
Oh man,
it's a very like, you have to tell a story through your mixtape.
you do. I feel like it's the most romantic gesture, actually. Yeah. And like making a Spotify playlist just isn't the same.
No. The only difference is that if you're clever enough and you can like write a question with the first like word of each
that's
song.
clever. That is clever.
But it might, unless the other person knows you that well, it might just like skip over their head and be like, what is this random assortment of songs?
I know, but if you're making a Led Zeppelin mixtape for someone, you have to sit there and you have to listen to Houses of the Holy while you're thinking of that person. That's all I'm saying. Hey, look, throughout the episodes, I'm going to dot, eventually, over the whole 327 episodes we do, I'm sure I'm going to end up mentioning at least 13 Led Zeppelin songs I think is on Dean's mixtape. And it's up to you guys to put them all together.
Well, and honestly, if there are 13, that probably makes sense for a mixtape. Because that's usually about how long a tape could hold.
Yeah.
Well, I know it might be shorter with Led Zeppelin because they are some pretty long songs.
No, I feel that. Hey, look, I have my own mixtape mix of Led Zeppelin songs that I think are on that mixtape. And
Nice.
you can extract that information from me eventually, but it's going to take until the end of season 15.
That'll be our very last episode is Amy's mixtape.
I'll just play it. Led Zeppelin can sue me.
We have no money. We're not making money off of this.
You can try. Led Zeppelin.
We do this for fun. Like.
Okay, this is more where I thought this was going. I don't think I'd be personally like trying to flipping get Robert Plant to sue me. Yeah. Okay.
So Dean says, for a Fed, you're not a total dick. Nick says, oh, aren't we both Feds? He's like, yeah, we totally are. But, you know, Feds aren't as cool as we are.
Dean's like, please like me.
And they kind of circle back around to the case. I love that the fact that they shouting this, like as if this is totally normal, but here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So what the hell with this case, man? How does a girl talk 4 different Johns into murder?
He says, can I level with you? He says, I found something kind of weird. I went to this crime scene this morning, saw them bagging this up, and he hands Dean like an evidence bag with some flower petals in it.
Yeah.
Nick says, so I went back through all the files and it turns out a flower has just been found in every single crime scene, like it was left on purpose. And then he says the whole like, well, you know, serial killers, they leave behind a token or a message or whatever.
Planting that seed.
Yeah. And Dean says, oh, I think I might have seen this flower before. It cuts to Kara and Sam, and quite conveniently, it's a hyacinth in the corner. It's like those are the same flowers.
The extremely common indoor plant. Like
the extremely common.
And like it's not even like a rare color of hyacinth. That's like the color. That blue purple. I mean, I don't have any on my windowsill currently, but like I do a lot.
is either gonna be that purpley blue or white.
Yeah. There's some nice pink ones too. Anyways, they smell really nice. I would recommend that if you want to brighten up your house, force some hyacinth bulbs.
Kara and Sam are looking through security video and they can't find the person who stole the blood sample. Someone must have messed with the tape. Sure. Okay. We'll go with that. Sam says, I think someone drugged the men to make them commit murder. And Kara says, what kind of drug could it be? I don't know how you flirt about murder, but they manage it.
I feel like Sam manages that quite a lot generally in life. I'm really dragging Sam in this episode. I'm so sorry.
Well, the thing is, you're always surrounded by murder, so it kind of makes sense that that's pretty much the basis for all your flirting, right?
That's true. If it's your day job. He's an FBI agent, so I feel like, well, here he is.
Yeah.
Pretending to be one. So I feel like they have murder in common. Yeah.
So Kara says, have you ever been in a relationship where you really love somebody and still kind of want to bash their heads in? I guess implying that, you know, she's like, you could take that as Sam being frustrated with Dean.
Yeah, see, I don't love that. Like, I have to say this for this episode. There's a lot of comparison between their relationship as brothers in a romantic sense in this episode. Because of the whole siren situation, because they made it weird.
Yeah, they did make it weird.
And this conversation here, because I feel like she should be talking about Ruby, but you're right, she's talking about Dean. It's not my jam, man.
Especially since, like, I know we have said multiple times that being someone's brother in this show does not mean in a familial sense, unless they are actually
like, you know, related.
Yeah. So the fact that the siren also says, you know, to be brothers later on, and then this alluded to, like, when you really love somebody, it's just like, yeah, I guess.
This conversation would have been fine outside of the context of this episode, where they have like a monster that is preying on people for like sexual reasons. It just comes off a little weird because you're right. Yeah, they're definitely he's definitely thinking about like, yeah, I do love Dean a lot. My relationship with him is really difficult. Like, he really gets on my nerves, and that's confirmed in this episode. Yeah. I do feel like it also does apply to Ruby though. You know, he does. I don't necessarily think he loves her.
Yeah.
But I think he cares enough for her about that he finds her frustrating.
I think eventually he gets to that point. I don't know if that's the case right now, just because. But then again, the interactions have been kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like Magic Town, USA. I know I'm going back a couple episodes, but like that whole thing where like they're kind of at each other's throats. Even though the time before that, she was tortured by Alistair.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's not consistent. How they write Sam and Ruby is not consistent through actually what is happening to them at the time, because I feel like Sam should have been way more sympathetic to her being tortured by Alistair, and then it's not really mentioned again. But yeah,
until it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. Definitely weird.
Like I said, in an effort to make this episode not gay or bisexual, they made it weird.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't mean to pry.
It's okay.
And she goes over to like a cabinet and pulls out a bottle of whiskey and like 2 glasses.
That is your job, ma'am.
Yeah. Like, we already know that she likes to drink because she came in with a
Yeah.
hangover. Which, as a doctor, that's really not her. How is she still licensed? Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, she's not a responsible person. No.
Yeah. And again, this is another comparison that they made because we had Dean and Nick doing shots together.
Yeah.
And now we have Cara and Sam doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She explains that her ex-husband was Carl, and then, you know, life happened and they basically fell out of love.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you compare that to her previous statement of like, you're so in love with somebody, then you want to bash their head in, but then suddenly like you're living with a stranger.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to say 2 different things right after each other, and it doesn't really work.
The kind of living with a stranger thing, I kind of get for Sam and Dean, because Dean has been different since he came back from hell.
Mm-hmm.
But then Dean's also right what he says later in this episode. Sam is different since he came back from hell too.
4 months separated
Yeah.
in the lives that they live
It's a long time.
is a long time, and a lot can change.
It's like they're kind of learning to live with each other again. Like, I mean, for Dean, it was much longer time, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they're learning how to work together again, how their relationship's going to be. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem as easy as it once was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see this as Sam starting to like exert his independence over Dean, and Dean doesn't know what to do with that.
Sam has never lived as a hunter by himself until Dean went to hell. He lived an independent life when he went to Stanford, but he never was a hunter.
Right.
And he's realised that, yeah, he's kind of good at it, you know? And now, you know, Dean comes back and is bossing him around, telling him what to do and trying to fit into that same dynamic that they had before Dean went to hell. And it's not the same because Sam's not the same person that he was then. Dean's not the same person that he was then. So it is a bit, there is friction there, but this all gets addressed in this episode, like fisticuffs.
How else? Cara says, people change. I know I did, but it's nothing to feel guilty about. It happens. Sam asks if they split up, and she says, I suppose that's a word for it. Which, again,
oh, he's dead. Yeah. The way she said it, I was like, oh, okay, fine. She either murdered him or he died.
Exactly. Sam's phone rings, and he ignores it and pours another drink. Cara says, we've all got our own sad stories, so screw it. Have fun, no regrets, live life like there's no tomorrow. I hate all of this next bit.
Yeah.
She just gets uncomfortably close. Like, no, I'm okay. You don't need to be right up in someone's ear. So she leans in close and says, for instance, I've been thinking about you all night. Well, parts of you.
No, I don't like that. No, it was creepy and weird. No, thanks though.
But I mean, all the power to her. Like,
look, if Sam's into it, so it's fine here. Like he's very into it. She's into it. This is all very consensual, all nice. But for me, this is not the kind of flirting that I personally enjoy. Someone right up in my, like, whispered in my ear talking about my parts. Thanks though.
Especially from a doctor, right? What parts are you talking about? Are you talking about like my outside parts or my inside parts or my like?
She said like mouth, and I was thinking she's not thinking about his mouth.
I kind of wish that she'd like, because she takes Sam's shirt off, right? I wish she'd said something about the tattoo on the chest.
Right, like cool tattoo, man.
Yeah.
Or just anything, like wow. I don't know.
Or yeah, like touching it, like I don't know.
No one ever comments on the tattoo, and it's a real weird tattoo to have. Let's be real.
It's a very visible place.
Yeah.
Well, we know why, right? They didn't. The reason why it's not there.
I forgot.
So yeah, and then they have sex
in her office.
Where she does all her tests, where her blood vials are, where everything is.
All I'm saying is it's not aseptic conditions anymore, so wouldn't trust her results.
I think this doctor is just like basically a party girl. Like her husband's dead, and she's living life to the fullest at this point. So like, she sees a man she likes, she goes after it. She wants to go to a script club by herself, she'll go there.
Yeah.
Like,
more power. Again, more power to her. We stand Cara. She's not in this episode again. We don't see her again. She has sex with Sam Winchester and then disappears.
And she's probably okay with that, actually, to be honest.
I think so. Again, like, yeah, I think it was very cash, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Cool. So we see Sam arrive back at his motel, looking a little bit rumpled, like his tie's not on anymore and his hair is kind of flippy. Dean's driving and rings him, and Sam finally picks up, and Dean's like, "Where are you?" And he, "Where have you been, young man?" I almost expected like Sam to walk into the motel room and like Dean's turned on a light and been like, "Where have you been?"
I mean, yes, that's exactly what he would do.
And he says he was with Cara, and Dean's like, "Ooh, it's Cara now, is it? Like, you're not picking up your phone?" And Sam says, like, we're trying to find the blood samples, someone stole them. And Dean explains that Nick found flower petals at the scene, hyacinths. It sounds like, and he's like, "They're Mediterranean." It doesn't matter. From the island where the whole friggin' siren myth started in the first place. It's like, that is a stretch. That is a stretch.
Well, we know they like to stretch things when it comes to plants.
Yeah,
so
that's very true. The plant lore is not it in this show. And then, so he's like, "Sam, Cara had those flowers." And Sam doesn't think she's a siren because I guess he doesn't think like he's feeling any effects from the siren after he's just slept with Cara. So, Dean brings up that she has a dead husband who like died out of the blue, which is actually not, it doesn't fit the pattern, but Dean's making that fit the pattern anyway because it's like kind of random. He wasn't murdered.
And it's a woman who killed a man rather than a man that killed a woman.
So yeah, it doesn't really fit, but like, yeah, Dean's on it because Nick's convinced him basically. And
Sam's in danger, so he kind of puts his blinders on.
That's true, yeah. Danger Sam. And Dean's like, "Well, why are you so sure that it's not her?" And Sam's like, "I don't know, a hunch." And he's like, "A hunch? I'm giving you facts here and you're giving me a hunch?" And then there's like a little pause.
Did you sleep with her? No. Holy crap, you did.
He just knows. Middle of Basic Instinct and you bang Sharon Stone. You could be under her spell right now. And Sam's like, "I'm not under her spell." I mean, I believe Sam that he's not, he seems quite cognizant. Like, he doesn't seem like he's under a spell. And surely they must know that the person, if they were under the spell, the person they're going to go for is the other one. Because they're literally the only other person that they could possibly try and kill in this situation.
Yeah.
But Sam's not trying to murder Dean. He's just sat in his hotel room like, "Hi." And then Dean says something well out of order. Dean's like, "I don't really get it." And Sam's like, "What?" And he's like, "Nothing." And Sam's like, "No, say it." And Dean says, "No, it's just, first it's Madison, then Ruby, and now Cara. It's like, what is with you and banging monsters?" Dean. Pot kettle black, first of all. I mean, he hasn't actually slept with any monsters, but they're in his future.
He slept with an angel.
That's true. Oh, I guess he doesn't see angels as monsters. I'm doing air quotation mark right here.
But like, Madison wasn't a monster, not really. I mean, she did kill her boss, so maybe.
I mean, she was a werewolf, but like Dean saw her as a monster where Sam didn't. So that's the thing here. Same with all of these women, actually.
He cried. He cried when Sam killed Maddie.
Bringing up Madison here was out of order. I mean, Ruby, yes. I can, because Dean and Ruby they're just they don't like each other.
Yeah.
And she's a demon. But like Madison, out of order.
Absolutely. Time out for Dean.
Yeah, it's not right.
Sit in the corner and think about what you did, Dean.
Also, Dean's like two greatest romances in this show is an angel and a vampire. So like, and like maybe a demon if you kind of go with Dean and Crowley's Summer of Love theory, which
and apparently a siren in this one
we're
too.
Definitely talking about that. I mean, anyway, Sam says, it's not Cara. I feel fine. And Dean's like, this could be the siren talking. They're just arguing now at this point, and when they hang up, Sam throws his phone across the room, and he does this really, like, look into near the camera, like, they zoom in on his face, and he's all like, got his hair in his face, very emo. He's like, yeah, I'm rebellious. So Dean rings Bobby to tell on Sam. He's like, Bobby!
Dad! Sam's being naughty!
He did something dumb. I don't know what to do about it. And he says, like, Bobby, I think, the sirens worked her mojo on him. The use of the word mojo is nice there. And then hangs up and calls Nick and says to him, I need your help. And Nick's like, with what? And then Dean says, canvassing, we've got to find somebody. So they're going to try and find Kara, who Dean thinks is a siren. So Nick and Dean are staking out a place where they've seen Kara go in. Nick's kind of questioning why they're following this woman. Dean basically says, well, I think she's drugging these guys. He's not giving in the fact that it's anything supernatural. Nick's like, but how are they all the same woman, etc. Like, he's really questioning it. Dean says, it's kind of hard to explain, but I have my reasons and they're good ones. So you're just going to have to trust me on them. And Nick says, yeah, okay, I guess. And Dean's like, oh, thank you. That's actually very nice to hear. Someone trusts me and listens to me and, validates me. It's very nice. Dean takes a drink from his hip flask and then offers it to Nick. And Nick drinks it, hands it back to Dean. And Dean takes another drink. Are you aware of the anime trope of indirect kissing?
I am. Oh. That was the first thing that came into my mind. When that happened, I was like, oh, okay. And then it's confirmed with what Nick says next.
I mean, and also I feel like I have to mention Charlie here because she would definitely say, I feel like it's an old Hollywood trope that kisses are from drink sharing. I think that's kind of where that comes from as well in anime. Mm-hmm. I love those like anime and old Hollywood. Nick says, oh, let's say she is drugging her victims. How is she pulling that off? And he's like, well, she could be injecting them or pass the toxin through physical contact. And Nick's like, or it could be saliva. And then completely turns and says, you should have wiped the lip of that thing before you drank from it, Dean. And then Dean realizes what's happened because he's been infected with the toxin from the siren, who's Nick. Mm-hmm. And then Nick says, I should be your little brother. Sam, you can't trust him, not like you can trust me. We see Nick's reflection is the siren in the rearview mirror. And says, in fact, I feel like you should get him out of the way so we can be brothers forever. And Dean's like, yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right, random hot man. We should be together forever. Let's get Sam out of the way.
Ugh. For one. I should be your little brother.
I don't like it.
I don't like it, especially since, literally the last time the siren was with somebody, she was like, I love you. Mm-hmm. We could be together forever if it wasn't for your mom. It's just like...
I think that's why they had that last scene in, because he didn't kill his wife, he killed a family member. And then they're like, so that's how this works, guys. It's fine. What's really funny, okay, I have to say this. So I watched this with my husband. There was the scene of Sam getting really angry on the phone. And then just before... he's never watched this episode before. He hasn't watched most of Supernatural. So he just watches it occasionally. So he hasn't even, seen them in order. He just knows what I think about it. And then they rocked up to the scene and he was like, wouldn't it be really funny, if the FBI guy was the siren? And I was like, yeah. And then it turns out that he is. And then he said to me again, well, I only said that because of your whole bisexual Dean theory that you've made me listen to. And I'm like, so it does make sense, right? Again, like I said, they wanted to do this as a reveal, a twist. So the siren's been a woman this whole time. Now she's Nick. Oh, we weren't expecting it. Mm-hmm. I think what happened was they wrote that, realized that it could come off a little bisexual, and they were like, how can we back out of this situation?
Without rewriting the entire episode.
Yeah. And so they went with, okay, the only other relationship in the show is the brother, so he wants to be his brother for some reason, even though all the other relationships have involved like sex in some way and falling in love, like oxytocin, like falling in romantic love, like is very much like specifically. So basically what I'm saying is this was Dean falling for a guy. The siren, who both Sam and Dean says, oh, they appear as everything you've ever wanted, appeared to him as a man. And yeah, Dean's a bisexual man. He just is, and maybe he doesn't even know it. So, this is a theory. So the siren can read minds, right?
Yes.
So maybe Dean's so deep in denial about his bisexuality at this point that like the siren was like, well, why the spidey senses are telling me that I need to be a man in this situation to get on this guy's side. But then when it comes to it, he's like, oh no, this man is extremely closeted. How do I convince him to kill someone in his life? I guess brother fine kind of works. I don't know, but it could be that. But you're also right. The use of brother in Supernatural is so loaded, not between Sam and Dean, but between other men in particularly Dean's circle of friends. I mean, not even just Cass. Let's just leave Cass out of this equation. Think about how Dean and Benny speak to each other.
Yeah.
And they'll say, like, it's like kind of like a brother in arms kind of thing. And it's like, yes, it is, but it's also way more loaded than that.
It is. And also the thing that gets me with this situation is that it's implied that the siren is going to actually keep one of the brothers and wants it to be Dean.
Yeah.
Whereas before, the siren would get with a partner and have them kill the significant person in their life.
Yeah.
And then disappear. I don't know if Nick was going to disappear after this.
It felt like he wasn't. There was something in how he was talking to Dean that was just a little bit more.
Maybe the actor behind Nick is just better than the chick that they chose to be the stripper.
Or maybe he too has fallen at the altar of Jensen Ackles and just couldn't help but like act it that way. As we are seeing that happen to the world now because of The Boys.
That man has a superpower.
He has some kind of superpower, I'm telling you. This episode is like I said, one of the number one references in the bisexual Dean theory. Like, it works. It works, and it's very. I mean, 2009. I think we said we're not giving anyone a pass after 2008. So, boo to you, Supernatural. You could have leaned into this, actually. They do use it to get a lot of talking out of the brothers in this episode. Well, they normally wouldn't communicate. It's funny how you can only communicate when you're under the influence of supernatural mojo.
Well, we've said this before, that this is the only way that they deal with their problems, is if there's something supernatural related to it.
Yeah.
And they were coerced, oxytocined into this. Like,
making Nick the siren is a choice. Because, again, you could have had two women in this episode paralleling each other. Like, you could have had Kara, and you could have had, like, a strong, like, female FBI agent who's into cars and Led Zeppelin, right? And you wouldn't have known which one was the siren, so it would have still been a twist when you find out which one it is. But you do make it kind of gay when you're saying that, this is the perfect person, someone you've always ever wanted. Like, to you, they are amazing, like the best romantic partner you could ever want, and then make that a guy for one of your male characters. It's a strong look.
Yeah. I mean, especially like with this next scene, some of the stuff that Nick says.
Yeah, exactly.
As well. Where has Sam been that he has to come back? I guess he went out looking for Dean.
I think.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be the implication. Because Sam enters the motel room and Nick is sat on the bed. And Nick's posture has now changed.
Yes.
He is now he's sat in a much more feminine way. Like, he's got like his legs crossed at like the knees.
He even does, and I hate to say this, but it is true. He even does a very like the kind of, I want to say, limp-wristed gesture that is like I don't even know what to call it, like a stereotype of gay men. And
it was all choices that didn't have to be made. Like,
Yes.
is this saying that the siren is female, and now that she no longer has to put on the face of masculinity because they have to be a FBI guy? But that doesn't add up. Because if the siren can be perfect for somebody,
Yeah.
is that what Dean wants?
I don't know.
Is that what Sam wants?
I'm here for gender fluid sirens. Gender fluid sirens.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love
Absolutely.
it.
I think the reason why they made Nick suddenly feminine acting
Yeah.
is to soften the blow into the audience thinking it's a woman transformed as a man.
Yeah.
So the siren is a woman,
Yeah.
and the siren just took on the facade of a man to get Dean, and that's the only reason.
Yeah.
But like Nick couldn't still act like Nick because it'd be like too gay. But then it doesn't work because he's now a feminine man, which is unfortunately what a stereotypical gay man would be.
Yeah, especially in early 2000s television.
Yeah, or late
Yeah.
2000s.
We're in the late 2000s now. I can't say early anymore. My gosh.
Then Dean jumps Sam and holds a huge knife to his throat.
I gotta tell you, you're one butt ugly stripper.
Rude. Men can be strippers too.
And honestly, for a male stripper, he would be very attractive.
Quite attractive man.
Nick says, well, maybe, but I got exactly what I wanted. I got Dean. So, interesting. Sam tries to, reason with Dean, try and get out of under his spell. But Monroe says to Dean, why don't you just cut him a little bit on his neck? And that's exactly what it does. Nick says, Dean's all mine. So Sam accuses Nick of poisoning Dean.
No, I gave him what he needed. And it wasn't some bitch in a G-string. It was you.
Okay.
Right. What? A little brother who looked up to him that he could trust, and now he loves me. He'd do anything for me. And I got to tell you, Sam, watching someone kill for you, it's the best feeling in the world.
So he's saying that what Dean wants is someone who looks up to him and trusts him.
I don't think he does.
But no, but that's Cass though.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that will be Cass, yeah.
Okay. I think you're right. I don't think that necessarily is what Dean wants. I mean, I guess sirens can read minds, so sure if you say so. But
maybe that's what he thinks he should want. You know what I mean?
yes, like I said before, this siren got very confused when he looked into Dean Winchester's mind. It was a big old confusion in there, I feel. I think that was it. There was a lot of mixed signals coming through, because it's like, this man is into men, but he's not very fully on board with this. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think maybe where crux this is that at the moment, I think what Dean wants is for Sam and Dean's relationship to go back to how it was pre-Howl. And that, I think that's one of his main wants at the moment. That kind of got mixed up with the siren signals of like actual kind of sexuality as well, in my opinion. I just think the siren got a bit muddled because Dean's very complex.
And that's saying it lightly.
Very lightly, yeah, definitely. I don't think Dean really does want Sam to be like, oh, Dean, you're the bestest brother. You're amazing. I don't know what the voice was. I think they do. He does want them to have an equal partnership, because they both bring different strengths to their like hunting team.
Yeah, I think the thing he wants the deference of Sam, right?
Yeah.
So like when it comes to maybe some of the bigger decision making stuff, he wants Sam to be the one, like Sam to listen to him on those directions.
And the trust isn't there at the moment, and he definitely wants the trust back with his brother.
Yeah.
Which really matters, especially as they're getting close to the end of the world. They need to be able to trust each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like 8 episodes to the end of this season.
8 episodes from the apocalypse, people.
Get your bags packed. So, and then Nick says, I get bored like we all do, and I just want to fall in love again and again and again. I don't know, particularly why Sam's taunting him so much. Because he says, like, I tell you what, I fought some nasty sons of bitches, but you are one needy, pathetic loser.
Yeah. He's pulling a Dean here.
But it's just like, it doesn't really land. And Nick says, well, you won't feel that way in a minute. And he like lifts up his tongue and he's got like a gland under his tongue.
Yeah.
That catches him like on the corner of his mouth. It was like, gross.
He's basically spit on his face is what happened here.
Yep. Because this is supernatural and because this is the only way that they can resolve their feelings and issues, Nick says, so I know you two have a lot of things you want to get off your chest. Why don't you discuss it? And the one who survives can stay with me forever. They face each other and they begin their argument.
Yeah.
So Dean says, I don't know when it happened, which is the first time he really speaks in this episode. He's had like one word so far.
Yeah.
Like he was really, like the zombified analogy was 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Sam, I knew, he's gone.
That's so?
And it's not the demon blood or the psychic crap. It's the little stuff. The lies. The secrets.
Yeah.
And I got really confused. Because I was like, we haven't talked about demon blood yet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but I think he means the
Azazel.
Yeah.
It's not a truth serum, right? Because Sam doesn't admit to taking demon blood at this point. He just, like, he asks about the secrets that he's supposedly keeping. So he doesn't just sort of blurt out his secrets.
No. It's more about discussing their issues, which Nick has asked them to do, and they're under his rule at the moment. So they're doing that. Mm-hmm. But I think if this had gone on, maybe it would have come out.
So Dean points out the phone calls to Ruby.
Do I need your say-so to make a phone call?
Dean says, that's the point. You're hiding things from me. What else aren't you telling me? Sam says, none of your business. Mm. He's just reminiscing on the past.
Yeah.
Saying, see, that's what I mean. We used to be in this together. We used to have each other's backs. And Sam says,
you want to know why I didn't tell you about Ruby? And how we're hunting down Lilith? Because you're too weak to go after her, Dean. You're holding me back. I'm a better hunter than you are. Stronger, smarter.
That's a knife in the heart to Dean, that is. Like,
yes.
The fact that Sam thinks he's a better hunter than him. Dean sees himself as, I mean, peak hunter. I mean,
he also knows that Sam's better at certain things, though.
If Sam doesn't need Dean to save him anymore, what's the point of Dean's existence in his mind? Mm-hmm. You know, if he's obsolete, if Sam can just do it all himself and he can take care of himself and he doesn't need Dean to protect him, why is Dean?
Yeah.
So it's about that. It's about feeling like, because that's always been his purpose in life, and that's why he went to hell. It was all to protect Sam. Everything was to protect Sam, and Sam doesn't need his protection anymore. So what do? You have to face up to the rest of the things that are in your life, which Dean's not very good at doing.
Nope. So Sam continues and says, you're too busy sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, whining about all the souls you tortured in hell. Boo-hoo. Do you think this is like a dig at what Dean said earlier about like Madison and...
This is tit for tat, just like being mean to each other at this point.
Yeah.
This is siblings fighting, like...
It is, but it's like the worst.
Yeah, well, no. The people who can hurt you the most are people who are closest to you, who know your secrets and stuff. So it's like, I will, at the most inopportune moment, mention the time that you did this really embarrassing thing when you were like 4. Right, except Dean's really embarrassing thing is that he tortured souls in hell.
That's quite a... yeah. That causes a fight. They start trading punches.
I don't think we've actually seen those two fight like this properly. Or maybe in Asylum there was a bit of a fight. Maybe not since then. I like this. What's good is like they're both pretty good at like fighting. So this was quite a fun fight. I like the bit where Sam threw Dean through the screen. He literally like picked him up and like threw him. That was pretty funny. But yeah, they're like properly... I mean, all for Sam's talk of being stronger than Dean.
Yeah, I mean, Dean manages to get him through a door. Like, just punches him, I don't know, body slams him into a door, which knocks him down. And then he goes for an axe.
Look. Cain and Abel, Annabelle, Cain and Abel. That's all I'm saying here. It's just repeated over and over again in Supernatural. This is
Isn't this the second time he's gone for an axe? So like that we've seen so far. I feel like this is not the first time.
I don't remember the first axe. I mean, it's a pretty good horror movie trope, right? Going after someone with an axe.
I mean, it's terrifying. Yeah.
Dean was always going to get the upper hand in this fight because he had to, because Michael and Lucifer, Cain and Abel, the tropes were all there. The foreshadowing of this fight.
That's so true. Oh my God, that is so true.
I was watching this like, this is actually big time foreshadowing. All the things that Sam says about, you know, you're weaker than me, I'm stronger than you, I'm going to be like, I'm better than you and everything. It's so...
You're not standing in my way anymore.
Yeah, it's so Lucifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they fight and like Dean managed to get the upper hand because he's the older brother, and it's like they knew where this was going, and I actually really, really, really appreciate this fight. Anyways, it was good. And then you get Bobby! Just saying, a father figure stepping in. Look, rewatching Supernatural is peak experience because you're like, they knew what they were doing sometimes.
Do you think Catherine Humphries and Sarah Gamble, do you think they're all friends?
They must have been in cahoots. Surely there was because there's no way you can write this theme and not know where this show is going, because the foreshadowing is extremely good.
Mm-hmm. So Nick is like taunting Dean, saying, you know, do it for me, Dean. And Dean to Sam says, tell me how weak I am, Sam. How do I hold you back? And then as Dean swings the axe, Bobby grabs the arm of Dean.
Yeah.
And then stabs him in the back with a bronze blade, and like Nick runs away, so he flings it down the corridor and kills Nick. It was very all epic and it's very good.
It's the most badass Bobby that we've seen for a while, and I really liked it.
You see Nick dead on the floor and like Dean cradling his upper back.
Yep. I mean, he didn't stab him very much. This is an intro too.
Yeah. All right. I'll stab you very gently or viciously in the, I don't know, trapeze area and see how.
You know, Bobby had fully sterilized that knife. Like, he had thought about this before he'd gone into, you know, it was all fine. I guess Bobby apologizes because they're all under a bridge now together. We see Bobby's like terrible car that I absolutely love, actually. And he hands him some drinks, and Dean's like, soda. And Bobby says, you boys are driving, aren't you? And this made me remember from Yellow Fever, where I think Danny pointed out to us when we did an episode with them that they were all drinking and driving at the end of that episode, of drinking beers and then drove off. I wonder if they got kind of in trouble for that. So like kind of tried to fix it here.
So I think in that one, Bobby waves them off. Like, he doesn't take the beer. Sam and Dean are drinking beer, but Bobby says no because he does get straight into the car and drives off. So I think Bobby's always been aware of drinking and driving.
Yeah.
Which also, like we were talking before, how do they celebrate without trying to deal with Dean's alcoholism?
Yeah.
Right? This is how they could have done it for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Knowing there's a problem, so casually pointing them in the right direction. Yeah, I would like that, actually. And yeah, they could have had Cokes or whatever they're supposed to be. But they look like root beer, maybe, actually.
I don't know. I didn't see. They're just a dark cola.
Generic fizzy drink. No advertising here. So Sam says, like, thank you, Bobby, if you hadn't shown up when you did. And Bobby's like, well, you've done the same for me more than once. And then, of course, you could have picked up the phone. It took us one call to figure out that Nick Monroe wasn't real, which is, like, pretty funny. Bobby asks if they're going to be okay because they're quite quiet. And, you know, it's like, they're wearing their, like, everything's not okay clothes, which for Sam seems to be that hippie shirt.
Yes.
And for Dean, it's John's jacket. I mean, we know that already. That's his, like, armor. But yeah, it's like their comfort clothes, the ones that feel the best, I guess, which I really like. Bobby kind of like says, okay, you know, because they both agree that they're going to be all right. Like, yeah, fine, whatever. And Bobby says, see ya. And then kind of turns around and says, like, you know, those sirens are nasty things that it got to you. That's no reason to feel bad.
So I think that's what he's kind of reading off of them, that they got bested by a monster.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he heard any of the fight.
No.
Not really. So he doesn't know why they're awkward with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's trying to like console them without knowing what the reasons are.
Yeah, he thinks their egos are just bruised, but it's a bit deeper than that. So yeah, Bobby leaves, and Dean and Sam are, you know, still drinking outside their car. And again, under a bridge is where conversations happen this season. Oh, they're literally building bridges.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god. Wow. Dean asks Sam if he's going to say goodbye to Cara, and Sam's like, no, I'm not interested. This is a big deal for Sam, because whenever he's had like a beau in a city before, he's always been like, oh, I wish we could stay, or Dean's kind of wished that he could stay for him, or there's been some kind of angst there, but Sam's really like, nah, it's all right.
She's a bit much for me.
Yeah. I mean, Sam even says, like, what's the point? I mean, he knows the hunter lifestyle now, like, love him and leave him, which is exactly what Dean says. And Sam says, Dean, look, you know, I didn't mean the things I said back there, right? It was just the siren spell talking. And Dean's like, of course, me too. And there's like a long pause where it's like, they definitely meant everything they said back there.
Yeah.
And they just agree that they're both good with that and leave. They get in the car and drive. That's it.
That's the end of the episode.
Like, they don't address anything they've said, as usual. I guess they're just never going to talk about this again.
No.
Sure. I do feel like this festers, and it does play into the Lucifer Michael stuff later on, especially with the like stuff that Sam said.
This is going to play Dean the most, I think.
Yeah.
Because what Sam will do, he'll take a more practical approach, right? He'll get stronger. That's Sam's approach. Like if something bests him, and in this case it was Dean, he will try to get stronger than Dean.
Yeah.
Whereas with Dean, the emotional hits that Sam gave to him, it will just sit there because Sam never addresses his secrets. So there will continue to be secrets.
And it kind of gives you an insight into how they're feeling in this point in time as well. Like Sam's almost resentful of Dean in some way. And then Dean's is just very insecure that Sam's kind of leaving him behind. It's interesting. This episode is wild from start to finish.
Yes.
It does address a lot of the brothers' problems at this point in the series, and we're getting fairly close to series end now. So it is kind of ramping up their emotions, definitely. It did it in such a wild way.
That's to say it lightly.
Yeah. I don't even know how I would explain this episode. Here's your homework. I want you to play this episode to someone who's never watched Supernatural and get their reaction to the siren being a guy in Dean's universe. Like, I just want to know how other people are interpreting this as well, actually. I think it would be a really interesting social experiment. So tell us your findings. I'll write it into a paper and publish it. But no, like, yeah, I'd actually be genuinely interested. I might try and do that amongst my friends. They don't like to watch Supernatural with me. I'm a bit much.
Season 4 is very dramatic, right? They always leave, like the end of the episode is a line cut off.
Yeah.
We've kind of assigned a theme, right, to each season. Yeah. So like season 3 was Facing Your Own Hell. Yeah. Right? I don't know what season 4 is. Is it facing? It's not Facing Your Fears because it's not really doing.
No, not really. I think season 4 as a theme, because we haven't really spoken about it. You're right. Is almost like having to deal with yourself and like who you are. There's a lot of like self-reflection in this season.
And so for me, this latter half of the season, like coming back, has all been about like nobody really wins.
No, yeah.
So family remains, like the family kind of have a horrible time of it and they lose a family member and they still have to stay in this house.
Yeah.
It's not really a happy ending.
No.
Chris Angel's a douchebag. He had to kill a member of his family.
Yeah.
Oh, is this what it is? It's killing a member of your family. Is that what?
They're ramping up to something, Annabelle. I wonder what it could be.
Yeah, because and then this one was literally the brothers fighting each other and almost ending one another.
They're hitting us in the face with it at this point, like literally.
So I wonder if that's what it is. It's like nobody really wins, and you have to kill like family members will die because nobody will win. I don't know.
It's a lot. I love season 4. I think someone described it as, and it may have been Charlie, a very horny season, and I can see that. I can see that. There's not much more I can say about this episode. I think it's just, it speaks for itself, and I don't understand why people don't believe that you can read more into it. I am kind of annoyed when people are like, you're reading too much into these things. When you sit with someone who hasn't watched the series before and like, actually, no, you're not reading too much into this, you know? So, next episode.
Next episode is Death Takes a Holiday.
This makes me think of the Sandman series. It always does.
Everything reminds you of the
Everything reminds me of the Sandman series.
That's fine.
But no, it's the one where, like, you know, hell closes, where the dead people come back to life. And, I mean, yeah, and Tessa's back. So, you know, the embodiment of death. At this point in the series, that's who she is. I know she's not technically death, but they haven't introduced death yet. So the moment Tessa's kind of filling that role without filling it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I love things to do with Reapers. I think it's very cool.
Your love started with Faith.
Look, they could have just done a whole series about Reapers and stuff. I think it's just a really cool idea.
All right, so at the end of the episode, we'd like to thank the Pixel Agora for his amazing logo art for the podcast. And if you would like to purchase that on buttons and stickers and bottles and things, you can go to our Redbubble store, and a portion of the profits will go to him as a thank you. You can also find us all over the interwebs. Search for Escaping Purgatory podcast or Escaping Podcast on Twitter, on the twitter.com.
So this week, we explored some aspects of ourselves that we maybe weren't completely aware of, but we secretly knew deep down were true all along. And so next week, hopefully, we can continue that exploration and find our way out. Bye!
Bye!